From the land grant University in Urbana-Champaign, Illinois, this is the Closing Market Report. It is the 25th day of February 2025. I'm Extension's Todd Gleason. Coming up, we'll talk about the commodity markets with Naomi Blohm. She's at TotalFarmMarketing.com out of West Bend, Wisconsin. We'll hear from Dan O'Brien at Kansas State University Extension. He joins us once a month to talk about the agricultural energies, particularly ethanol and renewable diesel. And then as we close out our time together, Don Day will join us from Day Weather in Cheyenne, Wyoming, to discuss what's been happening in the weather forecast here on this Tuesday edition of the Closing Market Report that comes to you from Illinois Public Media. It is public radio for the farming world, where you can purchase your tickets online at willag.org right now for the AllDayAgOutlook. It's only a week away. The cost is just $40. The full agenda is there. Do pay attention to the authors that will be on hand and the books that they'll sign if you bring them with you. There are links in the agenda for you to pick up books from Neil Dahlstrom, as well as Scott Irwin and Jonathan Koppas. It should be a fantastic day. I hope that you will join us at the Beef House next Tuesday, but you need to register right now at willag.org.
Todd Gleason services are made available to WILL by University of Illinois Extension.
March corn for the day settled at $4.79 3/4, down 2 3/4. May at $4.94 1/4, 2 3/4 lower. In December, down 3/4 cent. It settled at $4.70 a bushel for the corn. The March soybeans at $10.31 1/4, up 2 1/4. May a penny +1/4 higher at $10.48 3/4. In November at $10.51 3/4 cent lower. The bean meal futures up $2. The bean oil 26 cents lower. Soft red winter wheat down 6 1/4 at 5.72 3/4 for the March. The hard red March at 5.91 3/4, down 4 3/4 cent. The crude oil $68.94 a barrel, down $1.76. Cattle futures in the nearby contract 62.5 higher. Naomi Blohm now joins us from TotalFarmMarketing.com. She's in West Bend, Wisconsin. Hi, Naomi. Are you enjoying some warmer weather there today?
Oh, yes, we are. It's been close to 50 the last 2 days, and it is a delight. It was nice to have the snow finally, but I'm all right to see it melting out my window, so it is a gorgeous day.
Yeah, I heard for the first time last week, or maybe the last 2 weeks, they opened up the snowmobile trails. They'll have to be closed again, I suppose.
Yes, so the snowmobilers were going hard while the trails were open late at night, in the afternoons. So it was nice to have them open, but yeah, they are, I'm sure, closed today with all of the mud and slush that's out there now.
Well, let's talk about more mud and slush, because it seems to be a little muddy for the marketplace at this time, trying to figure out which direction it really wants to head from this level. Can you talk to me about what you're seeing in both corn, soybeans, as well as wheat?
Yeah, we saw a nice technical pullback and correction after the rally that we had higher for most of January, of course, and early February. So corn market hitting about a 38% Fibonacci retracement on charts, getting close to the 40-day moving average for daily charts. And so this has been a kind of a target. I feel like traders now might want to come in and do some buying at these values because we've had this pullback. And, of course, the corn fundamentals remain the most friendly right now in the complex for old crop. I have a hunch we'll see some end users start to increase bids just because, this 25-cent pullback has been just a nice correction and an uptrend. So traders also probably doing a little bit of position squaring ahead of first notice day for the March grain contracts later this week, also ahead of the USDA Outlook Forum later this week as well.
Yeah, so speaking into that Outlook Forum, USDA does release some numbers in November that they use some of in the World Ag Outlook or the Ag Forum. The World Ag Outlook Board then in November said, we think 92 million acres of corn. The trade's much higher than that at 94. What happens if we come in at 93.5 or even just at 94?
Well, a lot of the expected increase in acres, I think, is priced into the market already. So unless they do something dramatically larger than expectations or dramatically smaller than expectations, it's a non-event and it's already been priced into the market. So what we will be wanting to see is if there's any indication about biofuel demands as the conversations flow from the USDA Outlook Forum. And we'll maybe want to be, of course, keeping an eye peeled on next round of trade and tariff talks, which will be next week. That might affect the market as well, in addition to keeping an eye on weather in South America.
What's coming out of Washington, D.C. that you're keeping your pulse on other than those trade talks for next week? Are there policies that you've been watching, 45Z or something else?
Well, that's the one that we're always very curious to see if there's going to be more commentary about that. Now, earlier this week, the American Petroleum Institute, they kind of pressed for a nationwide policy on higher ethanol blends of gasoline. So there's, it's kind of fresh in mind for the marketplace in general. So we'll see if we can get some traction on that. Looking forward as well, just because we still have strong ethanol demand. We still have strong demand for exports. I feel like at some point in March, either with the March USDA WASDE report or the March quarterly stocks report at the end of the month, we'll see the demand uptick and likely see ending stocks come down for old crop corn values. And then we'll also keep an eye on what's happening with the biofuels in terms of soybean oil. And actually there's some talk today that palm oil supplies are going to be tight in Indonesia and Malaysia for the next 2 to 3 months because there's been some flooding there. So that might be something where we see some of those countries in Southeast Asia and other countries in the world looking to maybe import bean oil, especially if palm oil supplies remaining tight could keep palm oil prices working a little higher. So that's something we're going to be watching as well. But in general, sometimes you see the end of February and early March as a little bit of a trading lull for the grain markets as we gear up, balancing old news that's priced into the market and looking ahead to fresh fundamental news to give us some new direction.
On the fundamental news side, is there anything new or different coming out of Argentina and or Brazil that you're watching?
Just keeping a track that the weather, of course, has improved. So soybean harvest in Brazil on track, second crop corn plantings on track. Now, ironically, it is starting to maybe getting a little bit wetter in Argentina. So we'll want to keep an eye on that. But in general, things have improved down there substantially, which could give us a little bit of harvest pressure yet for soybeans and keep the bean market from any kind of a significant rally in the short term as the world turns its attention to buying export product from South America as it is their harvest season.
And much of the trade had been looking at the marketplace since October, saying we need to buy rallies and asking producers to market old crop on some new crop as well, both corn, maybe some soybeans. What do producers do at this point, do you suppose? And I know it varies from one to the other, but let's say they followed directions and made the sales.
Well, I would say if folks have made sales, chances are you've made it within the past 20 cents for where the corn market rally has been between old crop or new crop, and you have rewarded the rally that's been there. I think right now maybe you look at staying in a little bit of a holding pattern. There are folks who are going to have to do a price or roll yet this week ahead of first notice day. If you are making the cash sales on a price or roll, if you're making the sale and just closing out that cash market, make sure that you are aware and mindful of reownership possibilities down the road because that old crop situation is still so friendly thanks to that January USDA report. And then otherwise, I would say potentially hold off for a little bit on new sales just because we could see some traction here as we get into spring and then have that summer rally at some point and then just put it on your calendar now. A lot of times that summer market rally price peak will occur between Mother's Day and Father's Day, and so that's always when folks are busiest in the fields and getting planting finished, and that's when a lot of times the market rally or the market peak can come. So start thinking towards summertime, and it might be quiet here for a week or two, just depending on what happens, of course, with the USDA Outlook Forum and with the trade talk next week.
Thank you much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's Naomi Blohm. She is with TotalFarmMarketing.com. We're now joined by Dan O'Brien. He's at Kansas State University with Extension there, an agricultural economist. Hi, Dan. Thanks much. We appreciate you joining us again this month for our conversation about the biofuels industry. What have you been watching as it's related to U.S. corn ethanol and profitability within that system?
Well, there's both the policy front and the actual performance front. On the policy front, just a couple of things quickly. There's it sounds like with the recent announcements that there's more openness to having E15 year round than there was in the past. That's on the positive side. On the other side, there's the I guess the holding back of a final approval of 45Z budget funding, which has to do with the biofuels industry, and even people talking about replacing electric vehicle cuts with 45Z approvals. And I always have to go back and remind myself, what's 45Z trying to accomplish? And a good definition of it is that it provides a tax credit to biofuel producers on a per gallon basis based on the carbon intensity of fuel production. So they in certain areas they could work with producers, and then producers could potentially benefit, grain producers, oilseed producers potentially benefit from carbon friendly production practices. So we'll see where that goes, I guess. And as we talk about also the other issues that with the increase, moderate strength, I'd say, in the corn market. It's a good way to put it. Here we're looking at I guess that's been eating into or causing the profitability of ethanol production to go down some. Here we've got basically from about November through your early February projections. November we lost about, we had a break-even price of ethanol about $1.52, $1.53, and that was down about 6 cents below break even. And then as we moved from on into December, January, and early February now, well, the first half of February, we're losing about 11 to 11.5 cents a bushel, per gallon of ethanol. And again, break evens, it's about $1.58, $1.65, $1.69. And again, you look at ethanol prices at plants, at least in Iowa, they're running again about 10, 11 cents below those numbers. Of course, we bring in DDGs and corn oil into those calculations as well. So we'll see where all that goes as we get into spring, and see how the corn market goes forth, and having the possibility of increased fuel demand from driving picking up.
I'm going to try to be simplistic with this because this is the way I understand it, but I don't know if it is the way it works. Is the profitability driven by the price of ethanol, or what the oil companies are willing to pay for it, I suppose? And you're losing profit now because the price of corn has gone up, but the price of crude oil has not.
No doubt, there's a synergy between what we can pay for, what ethanol market values are in the marketplace, and the price of RBOB gasoline. So prices for gasoline in general, and again coming from, as you're mentioning, having to do also with what's going on in the oil market, have moderated the profitability. So I think it doesn't fall on deaf ears to us that once we get into the spring, into vacation times for people, when motor fuel demand picks up, that supply demand balance would affect the oil market, affect the gasoline market, and would bring in mandated via RFS usage of ethanol in those motor fuel blends into play, and probably if nothing else changed, ceteris paribus, as economists say, and we just increased gasoline demand to raise that price a little bit, I think we'd be at a break-even or better situation than we have right now in the ethanol market. But we're waiting for spring and summer driving to pick up and to improve all that.
You talked about 45Z, the impact on biodiesel. What have you been watching there as it's related to both biodiesel and renewable diesel?
Well, that plans that were going forward under the old administration are on hold as we head off into this new administration, as they reconsider what they're doing. I would say here this week we have the Ag Outlook Forum in Washington D.C. As no doubt some people from Illinois will be there. I'll be there from Kansas State, some others also, and I guess I'm going to be listening really closely and talking with people, trying to find out what the administration's goals going forward are in the biofuels area. It was. I think we're still living with, especially from the impact of what happened about a year or so ago when the EPA made their announcements that were taken as less than hoped for, at least by the renewable diesel industry, and because again that industry was looking for more protection, more surety of market share going forward. So I guess. If policies aren't I guess recalibrated, if we don't come back and support those needs, then you would have to at least have a valid question about how much more strong expansion we'd see in the biodiesel side. I know we had a lot more enthusiasm and optimism about that before those most recent announcements, and now it's this administration's turn as we look towards 2026 modes, and so we'll see. There's an article that came out here this week that ag biofuels, petroleum industries both joined forces calling for a boost in multi-year RFS volumes, and those are parties that don't generally come together. They don't always agree, but this time they did, looking for the USDA to come forth and the EPA to come forth and still support strongly what's happening in renewable fuels. So we'll see where that goes off in the coming months and year, I guess.
Hey, thank you much. I appreciate it, Dan.
Thank you. Take care, Todd.
You too. That's Dan O'Brien. He is with Kansas State University Extension. Joins us once a month on a Tuesday to talk about the agricultural energies. Next Tuesday, speaking of the day of the week, we'll be at the Beef House in Covington, Indiana for the All Day Ag Outlook. I hope you'll be there. The farmdoc team will be there. We're going to have a farmdoc team panel in the afternoon. I've only done this once before at a Farm Progress show. It was something to behold then. It was really great. And I think it will be on that day as well. So we'll have Scott Irwin and Nick Paulson and Gary Schnitke and Jonathan Koppas up front at the end of the day. Oh, Bruce Sherrick will be there from the farmdoc team as well. He'll talk about land values in a separate part of the program for the day, as will Joe Jansen. Joe will take up, of course, the marketplace. He's going to kick off the morning, in fact, and then Joe has to get back to campus to teach. Along the way, we'll also have our corn and soybean panels with the Will Ag analyst, and we'll hear from John Reed. He is the director of the Center for Digital Ag on campus. He'll be talking about autonomous agriculture and what you'll be seeing in your fields, and I mean that, in your fields in the future. Probably not the very distant future, as it's related to farm machinery, the kinds of things that you're operating now, tractors and combines, and of course, all the implements as well. We'll hear about that from John Reed. It'll be a great day, but you have to register. The cost is $40. Do it right now at willag.org, and make sure that if you want to pick up one of those books, you do that. Order it today as well, so that you have it in hand and you can have the authors, Jonathan Koppas, Neil Dahlstrom, who wrote Tractor Wars, and Scott Irwin, who wrote Back to the Futures, sign them. Don Day is now here to check in on the weather forecast, as usual for a Tuesday. Hi, Don. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's begin in South America. Start with Argentina. What do you see in their weather prospects?
Well, the prospects for rain in Argentina are much better than they've been in a while. And that pretty much goes for all the key growing areas, as starting to get a little more, let's say, precipitation friendly in some parts of South America. And Argentina is one area where the rain chances are looking better.
And in Brazil?
Brazil is a little bit of everything. The southern and southeastern provinces and states there are are going to be drier, especially the southeastern areas. They're not going to partake in the better rains that Argentina will have. Now, the further north and west as you go into Brazil, some of the central areas, some of the northwest areas of the key regions there are going to catch some of the rain. So warmer and drier the further south and east you are in Brazil. The central and western areas are going to be picking up some decent rain.
All in all, I suppose you'd say not bad for growing conditions.
Not bad. There's some pockets of dry, especially in the southeastern areas, but I've seen worse. Let's put it that way.
Here in the United States, how are we faring in the hard red winter wheat growing regions?
Well, everybody enjoying the warming trend. A week ago at this time, we were looking at the Arctic air mass across the U.S. So temperatures have risen, and that includes those areas, the hard red winter wheat. They're looking at not so much the short term, not so much here over the next 4 or 5 days, but next week, we're going to see a series of systems come off the Pacific and take a track further south than they've been in a while. So from the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles through Kansas and eastern Colorado, the rain chances, snow chances are looking good, and some of that will extend up into the upper Midwest as well.
Anything else we need to cover before I let you go?
Soon it will be March, and the way things are looking here in the next couple of weeks ahead, it looks very typical textbook type of March weather, which means a little bit of everything for a little bit of everybody.
Well, if we could hold off for the All-Day Ag Outlook, which is Tuesday, March 4th, with some good weather. I see that maybe we might have a little rain. I don't suppose I'll worry about that. Nice temperatures, though. Thank you, and I appreciate it. We'll talk with you again, not next week, but the following week.
Sounds good.
Don Day is with Day Weather in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Joins us most Tuesdays, not next Tuesday because of the All-Day Ag Outlook, but most Tuesdays here on Illinois Public Media's Closing Market Report. Speaking of that All-Day Ag Outlook, if you've not registered yet, please do so. And if you have but haven't picked up your books to have them signed by Neil Dahlstrom, who authored Tractor Wars. That's also the documentary that you can watch on WILL TV Channel 12. Check out all the details of that one at go.illinois.edu. Or you can pick up Scott Irwin's book, Back to the Futures, or either of the books that Jonathan Kompas has written about conservation or the history of the Farm Bill. All the details of how to purchase those books, Jonathan's books have a 40% discount on them, are on our website at willag.org, willag.org. Make sure you have them in hand. Bring them with you to the All-Day Ag Outlook at the Beef House in Covington, Indiana. The whole of the FarmDoc team will be there. The WILL analyst, John Reed from the Center for Digital Ag here on campus. Should be a fantastic day. I'm looking so forward to it. And the weather should be not bad either. Maybe a little rainy, but warm. You'll want to join us again at the Beef House next Tuesday in Covington. You've been listening to the Closing Market Report from Illinois Public Media. I'm Extension's Todd Gleason.